was given some beer through MLB Network Radio. Thank you. Cheers,
Hey,
everybody.
whoa. Back it up. Because I also work for MLB Network Radio, and they've never given me any beer. So let's make sure we get the whole story.
Okay, so here's the story. Some Yingling, BGG, his name is Ben. He's one of our fantastic producers on Inside Pitch. I think since he's such a crazy Philadelphia Philly fan, he had a relationship with Yingling where somebody asked, "Hey, do you want a Yingling?" And I was like, "Heck yeah!" So that's how it happened. It just happened to be my producer is better than yours.
I won't let you speak ill of my producer because we share a producer, because Eric, who does Loud Outs for us on Saturdays, also does the morning show. So you don't speak ill will of him. We could talk about Tara, I guess, a little bit, who's never gotten us beer. Now, did that have the old Philadelphia Phillies logo on it too?
Yeah, and I don't know how I feel about that. So a couple things, and you know this as a broadcaster. We could share this as a behind the scenes story. When you go to Philadelphia and you're in that wonderful city, there's Geno's or Tony's, which is the cheesesteak places that you can go to. I'm a Geno's guy.
All right.
And then when you go to Citizens Bank, I really enjoy playing there. Great fans, even though they can be a little bit reckless and ruthless. I love that the stadium for the bank is right across the street from the Eagles, so I think it makes a lot of sense for parking. But when you go there, there's always Yingling, where people are always talking about Yingling. Oh, you got to drink the Yingling. And so I am a big fan of Yingling when I'm in Philadelphia, but I'm a bigger fan, and I'm not sure how often you get to go to the food room in Philadelphia at the bank.
Yeah, I've only called one game there in my 7 years of broadcasting. We were supposed to go there this year for 2 games in April, which I was kind of excited about, which obviously got canceled.
Yeah, so you're missing out on
spent very little time there.
So you're missing out on one thing that I don't think you understand how important it is. It's a person, and it's a person in the food room at the bank, and his name is Frank. And Frank is everyone's best friend.
Okay.
And the reason why Frank is everyone's best friend is because he sits at he stands at the end of the food aisle, and he serves ice cream. And he serves the biggest piles of ice cream, and he's always really happy. And when you go to Philadelphia, you have to get a Graham Slam from Frank. And
so it's not self-serve ice cream. There's somebody in control of the ice cream, because most of the press dining, a lot of them will have the soft serve ice cream, which is a real problem. This past year when I was doing the intermittent fasting, I was eating like a pig when my window was open, and I was ice cream. But I was on my own to make as big or smaller how many times I wanted to go up there. Frank's in control. You're making it sound like it's a good thing. But it's awesome. He's cutting you short?
No, Frank does not cut anyone short for ice cream. So just trust me. So have you ever heard of it's in New York. It's this insane ice cream place. I want to call it like
is it a shop or is it
it's an ice cream shop called like
Big Gay Ice Cream?
No.
That's the spot.
We were just talking about it. Serendipity? I think it's called Serendipity.
All right.
New York. And they give you a banana split that's the size of your body. And so Frank is not working for Serendipity, but Frank is like the bartender that gives like the pour, but the pour is like a double. So
right.
Frank is giving you a double of an ice cream no matter what you ask for, even if you're like, hey, I'm like, I just want like a small one, and here's like, yeah, here you go. Here's the small.
That's awesome, man. I love those kind of guys. So I'm drinking. So I'm a big fan of the Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale, which they only sell in 4-packs. Remember, we were talking about it the other day because the alcohol volume is a little bit high.
So high. Yeah.
So decided to get this is only 8%, but this is the Kentucky Coffee Barrel Stout. So I didn't go this route today, but I am a fan, and I think, and I'm not asking for any free product. I think they follow me on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken, but So a little free plug for a really good beer. But I really enjoy the Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale. This is the first time that I have the coffee barrel stout. If you like a little bit of a heavy beer, this would actually go well with a cigar, which I was tempted to have this evening, but I did not. I'm going to hold off a little bit. But yeah. And I want a little drink tonight. I saw an article a little while ago from Pedro Mora from the Athletic. Today, sadly, the 10-year anniversary of the passing of Jose Lima, which I was unaware of until I saw that today. So
bummer,
really,
man. Lima time.
And former teammate and one of the great personalities of the game. And I still talk about him this day when I talk with kids. And actually, we had a couple of baseball games today, so it came into play. This game, how it can mentally beat you up. And
for sure.
I've said this before on our show on Saturdays on XM, but just I was always envious of him because no matter how bad it was going, you would never know with him. He could have 5 horrific starts in a row. He wouldn't care. He was always having fun. And then he'd have that good one, and he'd act like he just rattled off 8 in a row. And I was so jealous of that. I was like, how do you do it, man? Because that's where I wanted to be, or even halfway there. Because I was all about everything I did bad is what I focused on. If I did something good, okay, that's fine. Move on to the next one. And he had that part of the game whipped, man. And nobody had more fun than Jose Lima. So a little
cheers to Jose Lima time. Cheers to you, buddy.
10 years. Man. He was 37 years old. I guess he would have been 47 is what he said. That can't be right. Older than that. But anyway, just a tremendous teammate. I had a lot of fun with him in the early years in Detroit. We were traded to Houston together, and then he came back to Detroit again when I was there for another time. Great dude. Teammate.
He was a kind of a trivia question for Rockies this year. So last year, obviously, like Kyle Freeland really struggled, and I think his ERA was, I don't know, it was nowhere near where it was the year before.
Mm-hmm.
And what was amazing, Kyle was top 4 in Cy Young voting in 2018, and last year it just got sideways in a hurry. And I was curious, obviously, as you and I are both very curious by nature. That's why we love cats. And so I wanted to see how many times had a pitcher ended up in the top 5 in Cy Young voting, and then basically lead the league in ERA in the wrong direction the next year. And it's only happened, the other time it happened to that level was Jose Lima. And I think 99 might have been Lima time where he was just unbelievable.
He went over to Houston in 97, started to have a breakout year in 98. We were in the big leagues together that year. I got traded away. 99 was a good year. He had that good run in there, and it might have been 98, 99 was the back-to-back pretty good years that he had, and he turned it into a good contract. And then when they went into what is now Minute Maid, but at the time called Enron Field, he was done because the Astrodome, not to say done, but he really struggled because the Astrodome was big. And he threw a ton of strikes. I mean, a ton of strikes, and wasn't afraid to split the plate and was a fly ball pitcher. That worked out great in the Astrodome. It did not work out great in Minute Maid Park with those Crawford boxes there. And he unfortunately he was done in by the ballpark eventually. But he was the guy that nicknamed it Home Run Field instead of Enron Field.
So what's crazy? Okay, so this is my favorite thing about having any conversation with you. So I'm taking school. I'm in graduate school right now. Working on the MBA, and we just studied the entire Enron case.
Oh wow!
Which is so fascinating because it deals with all these different parts of economics, but then it comes down to like the ethical part of business of whether or not like people were acting accordingly. What was it good business practice? Was it like what is essentially the job of a business? It's capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with capitalism at times is that it really limits your ethical boundaries. And so while I was
for sure, I don't doubt that.
And while I was studying this, some of the parts that stand out are like normal human behaviors, and you can kind of parallel it with the steroid era of baseball. And I know it's going to sound really funny to say, well, how can you say that parallels with baseball? And the reason why is if you look at that time frame, the steroid era,
mm-hmm.
the same thing that was going on at Enron, which was, if we get caught, we're done. But if we don't get caught, we're making a ton of profit, right? Like we have the accountants are looking the other way. We have shareholders that are enjoying the profits. It's the same thing with like the steroid era where guys were willing to take something because they were going to max out in profit.
Yep.
And so it's like, until you get caught, nobody cared. So it's to me, it's like fascinating. And it's crazy that Enron Field, now that I think about it in full circle, it's like, it's perfect, right? Like during that time frame, I'm glad Enron Field was Enron Field. And I'm glad that the steroid era is over and they're over too. It's like, I don't know. It's poetic justice, I guess.
Yeah, it was wild times. When I lived in Houston at the time, and there was obviously a lot of really sad fallout from that as well. But that corporate greed certainly was alive and well, and we were very well aware of everything that was going on, being locals and knowing some folks in our area that worked for that company. And then, was some, unfortunately, one guy took his own life not too far from where our house was in his neighborhood. I mean, some guys were faced with some amazing pressure that really got to that. But you're right. I mean, it's funny, like where I live now and kind of where we go, we'll play, we belong to this country club. We're just social and tennis members there. And there's some money there. It's a lot of, we don't live in that neighborhood, but there's a lot of, there's probably been at least 3 or 4 of the Housewives of Atlanta homes that are in this neighborhood, including one of them. And I don't know anything about any of that stuff, but I know one of them that's still there now that I think is on the show. And so there's a lot of money there. Right. And so more of those people that I meet, and I don't just mean like the celebrity side, but just the people that have made that kind of money, man. It's funny how many guys either got really lucky or cut a corner somewhere, man. Like they don't mind sharing with you over a drink, like, that, oh, he did this, or they stole that. They're going to say it directly, but you can read between the lines of what they're talking about. And I'm not saying you can't become, hugely successful without being honest. You certainly can. But I feel like I find more often than not with some of these folks that I meet that they were not afraid to bend a rule or two, or maybe claim something to be theirs that wasn't really theirs. And one guy was flat out, he's like, well, I was working with this company and, I basically took their technology and started my own, and now he's crushing it. I'm like,
what?
I mean,
I'm hearing this stuff all the time, CJ. Yeah. Like there's times that people think like somebody that's really wealthy or that has created a business is a genius. And I'm finding out so far, especially in this course, it was like, hey, just because a business is successful, don't automatically assume that they have their stuff together. Like, they could have just got lucky.
No doubt. Right place, right time is not uncommon. It's probably more the case in the. I'm not saying you can't work hard to make it happen, but I think right place, right time, a little bit of luck is absolutely part of it. And I think, again, there's another like baseball parallel there. I mean, you mentioned the idea,
for sure,
cutting corners here and there, but right place, right time, whatever it was, right team. And regardless of the sport, right? Think about football, I got to get in the right system. If you're in the wrong one, you can't flourish, but you get the right coach or whatever it may be, man. So it's there is some kind of fun parallels in there for sure. So how'd you grill go, man? How'd you cook? Tell us what was on tonight.
All right. So again, I've told you I'm way into local. Our family's into like farms and responsibly sourced food and products, right? Like that's what we've gone to. Just means you have to pay a little bit more so the wife can sleep better at night. But there's a local butcher in town, and he has his own farm. So all of the animals are, whatever, grass fed or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like like you're getting good meat. And so the meat has been unbelievable. Like, I think there's such a difference in ordering like meat from a local butcher that has like a locally sourced farm like nearby, because we've tasted difference in our steak, in our hamburger meats. I ordered a bunch of like homemade hot dogs and sausages. It's been really cool. They do this homemade meatloaf that's unbelievable. So tonight it was burgers, Yingling, watermelon. And they do these jalapeno poppers with like a pork filling, and it's like, I can't make that stuff, like I can't.
You grill your watermelon, or you just mean a side of cold watermelon?
Side of cold watermelon, but I probably should have grilled it, huh?
You can. It's it's to me, I love watermelon, so I'd rather eat it cold. But you could grill it absolutely, just like certain things that you might grill, pineapples with or whatever. I
like grilling pineapple, but not. I like my watermelon cold.
No doubt, man. Let me ask you this: you feel a little extra pressure. So if you're paying a little bit more, you're getting a higher quality meat. you turn the grill on, you can't mess it up, dude. Like you'd be a little bit more upset, right? It's like anything that you buy nicer or put a little bit more cash behind that you want it to go well. You feel a little extra pressure when you're out there on the grill, knowing that a few extra bucks out of the pocket.
Good question. So like each jalapeno popper was 99 cents. Each hamburger patty was $2.50.
Wow.
So, if I messed up a jalapeno popper and a burger, I feel like 350 is not that big of a deal.
Nice.
But, when you have one of those decent steaks, yeah, for sure. I can't mess those up. But that's what I said. Like kebabs are, like $3 for a kebab. So it's not like it's going to break the bank. But if I do go for like one of those tomahawk porterhouse steak things, it's good. That's like a $40 steak. I'm like, you're right. Like I better not mess that one up. I'll be out that and you know what? To be honest, like I'm gonna eat that thing like it was the best. Like I was at Morton's or Fleming's or Sullivan's or like you name a steakhouse, Del Frisco's. I'm gonna eat my own steak like that's the best damn thing I've ever had in my life, even if I murdered the steak and it's terrible.
Even if you go well done with ketchup. Adam LaRoche has his own cattle farm. Do you know that? He's got it. You can buy his stuff online. I think it's called like E3.
Yeah.
Or something, right?
That's right.
Expensive, but it looks good. I checked it out 1 year, probably 2 years ago one day. But that's one of those ones. I don't know if I could take the pressure. Like, I don't think you're getting a steak under $100 from him that you order. And that's the real pressure.
Wait, they're $100 steaks that you have to...
But it was E3 Farms or something. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, no, that sounds right. So I played with his brother Andy LaRoche, who is still one of my favorite teammates of all time. We were roommates after we were both in the big leagues for about 6 years. So we're minor league roommates, and you could imagine the two of us together. He lives in Andy now lives in Steamboat Springs, which is about 4 hours away from me. And Andy and Adam have a restaurant up in Steamboat Springs. I want to say they still have it.
Yeah, so that's the E3 Steakhouse.
Yep, E3 Steakhouse.
Yep. E3 Ranch and Company. I played with Adam when he first got broke into the big leagues. I think it might have been his rookie year in 2004 with the Braves. But I'm looking at his website right now, and yeah. So let's see. You can buy 4 strip steaks for $120. Not bad. They have some kind of huge package here that's available for $1,400. They got some cool stuff in there. Big prime rib in there for $150. You got the baseball cut sirloin starts at $99. But doubt.
How many sirloins are in there? There's 8.
There's 4 in that one. So $25 a pop. The tomahawks start at $89. Are currently sold out. Get some bacon wrapped fillets starting at $119. That's gonna be a cool business to be in, for sure, and a good dude. But yeah, I would order from him. I just got it. The pressure's on, man. You can't mess it up.
Okay. So then let me ask you a question. If you are grilling, I have been looking at the green egg. Have you looked at that at all?
I have. So here's the deal. I've been working on this porch where I started back in January, and I did a little extension on my porch, and I then had the natural gas line run from inside the house that pops up through the porch. So I eventually have to get a new grill. I haven't gotten one yet, but I want to get a new grill that then just goes off the natural gas from the house, so I no longer have to buy propane tanks. But part of what I wanted to do, I was looking at the green eggs, but there's another one. I think it's called Blaze. It's expensive, man, but it's all metal, and it looks really cool.
Like Nemesis metal, or like
hopefully nicer than that, but yeah, but it is, I think it's all stainless steel or whatever. And I've seen it on like the barbecue guys website, which is a pretty good one. I think it's called Blaze, but it's steep, man. I want to say it's like $1,800 or something. I haven't done it yet, but I was on the fence about whether or not that's the route I would go, something similar to do it. But I haven't used one. But I think you can't go wrong, man. It'd be a good ad for sure.
So I'm not sure if you follow Joe Davis. Joe Davis is the voice, the play-by-play voice, television voice of the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And he's amazing. I mean, by the way, like he's done an incredible job coming in after Vince Scully. You talked about like an impossible job to come into, but I also think like there's not that much I mean, you can't. You're not going to be better than Vin Scully.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I feel like you're actually in a better spot. Like the like Didi Gregorius playing shortstop for the
Yeah.
Yankees after Jeter. It was like, dude, I'm not going to be Derek Jeter, so.
No.
I'm gonna just like bleep off. Like I'm not supposed to be better than this guy. So I feel like
right guy, right? Personality for him was perfect, right? That's the kind of guy to follow who's not gonna beat himself up over maybe not being or trying to be Derek Jeter. But yeah, I've done a couple of games with Joe when I was doing games at FS1. He does a fantastic job, man.
So he is way into barbecuing, and like I said, if you follow Joe on his Twitter account, you can see him cooking on the green egg. And I'm not kidding you. Like Joe on those green egg, like he knows. He's like Emerald. He's like Barefoot Contessa. He's like
he's better than Mike Farron. You better be careful.
Oh, I'm not saying he's better. I'm just saying that he's. I mean, like he's really, really good. He's good at it, and he knows what he's doing. So I'm interested, and I asked Joe the other day. I said, "What can you give me some tips on the green egg?" And he said, "Yeah." And it started a conversation about I think he's gonna do it once a year now for visiting teams. Like the Rockies come in the final series in September, and he's gonna barbecue for us. So I'm looking forward to that.
Did you say once a series or once a year?
I think he's going to do so. Like, let's say Texas comes in. If I can talk him into it, he'll barbecue for the Rangers broadcasters. And they're obviously he can't cook for us every single series, but he'd probably do it one series a year. Well, he'll cook for our Rockies broadcast team or members of our broadcast team.
That's amazing. So here's that. I looked at it right now. It's a 20-inch cast aluminum Komodo grill. If you can see that or not on there.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. So I don't know.
But I don't know what I would do with that. I don't know how to cook with it.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing as a green egg. It's just that they're all the same type of grills. This one's just a little bit different. But I wonder about the success of this one because it originally started out about $2,300. You can get it now for about $1,800, which is still expensive and certainly more than what you're going to pay for any kind of ceramic one like a green egg and the different sizes that they have, or Komodo Joe, whatever it may be. But I really like the look of that one as well. And over the long term, they do a couple like demos on there. I mean, those Komodo ones are made of ceramic. You know what I mean? So you think about the way they hold heat probably really well, but the metal ones also bring a little something different to the table. So I'm tempted, but I got to stain that deck. I got to get the grill first. It's probably like the 5th or 6th item on the list to be able to add to when I'm all said and done. But it's fun, man. I mean, I've definitely smoked stuff before. I told you my brother-in-law is an unbelievable cook whenever he comes down from New York and cooks for us and smokes for us. And it's amazing, man.
My wife, like Stacy she's a vegan, more or less. She doesn't drink alcohol. She's the life of the party for sure.
Wait a minute. So when you're doing this work, she's out on those burgers.
Yeah. I cook for my sister-in-law. She lives right across the street. So she'll come over and she'll eat. But I'm cooking for myself and the 2 kids.
Well, now with the kids, will they all eat meat?
Yeah, they eat meat, but not all the time. I mean, we don't eat that much meat. We used to eat it all the time, and our like red meat intake has gone down way pretty severely. We're like, yeah, I don't know. There's times I'm like, can't we have a burger every night?
I actually have one tonight. I don't have too many burgers. We'll usually go turkey burgers when we have burgers, but my daughter started working at this restaurant down the street. And so, and they actually got people in the restaurant now, but obviously it was mostly just to go orders. And so when she's working, sometimes we'll go ahead and put an order in knowing she's going to be there and she might be the one that runs it out to the car. So I got myself a burger today. They make an amazing crab cake, which we end up fighting over when we get it. And they do. And I know a lot of people do Brussels sprouts well, but they crush your Brussels sprouts too.
Yeah, Brussels sprouts are great. So are they roasted or how are they doing their Brussels sprouts?
No. I mean, they're roasted, but there's some kind of jelly in there that they add to it. That's just amazing. The food's actually really, really good. Like we're far out, so there's not too many restaurants around here. There was this cool little barn-looking building that was sitting there for a while. A guy had a coffee shop / gift shop, but unfortunately couldn't stay afloat, and that building sat there for a little bit longer. And they actually would have. They must have had some kind of in with a local butcher or a local farmer because they would have some local meat in there which was cool, which I love. But they couldn't keep their head above water, so they closed. But now there's a cool restaurant there. But I went burger tonight as well, so don't be too jealous. But I don't do it too often, man. I don't do it too
Well,
often.
I hear you. Hey, how's Little League today? How did it go?
So interesting, man. I love talking to you about this stuff because I got to be really careful. First of all, it's funny how we talk. We talk about guys that are like great players that don't necessarily make great coaches, right? Because there's a hard time relating. And I was thinking, yeah, that's for great players. And then when I started to realize I started picking up on it last year, and I started realizing it this year, is that some of the things that are automatics for us, like little things about the baseball IQ and plays, and when it doesn't happen for a kid at 12, right? Hitting the cutoff man at the right time, understanding, like, hey, what am I going to do if the ball comes to me, and hesitation, little things like that we feel like we've practiced enough that they should be doing, but they're still not doing. I really got to work on my patience in being a little bit more understanding. I said something to an umpire last week, and I was like, what do you think, man? I said, how patient you think I should be? Like a kid did something. He goes, you need to be very patient. Now, he's a little league umpire. He gets it. He's seen it all, right? And he also umpires college and high school. But I was a cool little piece of advice because I'm in the middle of, like, I don't mean like yelling and screaming and being irritated like that, but like wanting to push kids firmly in the right direction on some things they're doing, or what should you let go, you know what I mean? And say they're still kids and they're having fun, and that's really what it's all about. And a lot of them aren't going to play in high school anyway, right? I mean, they're only 12 years old. So that was a really good piece of advice that I got from an umpire. And so I went through a little bit today with the same thing. Like, it's a little frustrating, right? Like, you try to tell the kids, the outfielders as an example, runner at second, that's your time to start thinking about, hey, this base hit comes to me, ground ball. What am I going to do? What's the situation of the game? And I always tell them, and you tell me this, I feel like this is pretty consistent advice and okay advice. No one's ever going to yell at you for hitting the cutoff man, right? And I tell people all the time, in the history of baseball, I don't think anybody's ever been yelled at for hitting the cutoff man. I said, or reprimanded or corrected or whatever, right? And I said, but the opposite is also true. Like, there's going to be times where you're missing the cutoff man, and that is absolutely the wrong play. And so, I don't want to yell during the game. I'm just an assistant coach here to help out. It's nice that we have a non-dad that coaches the team.
Assistants are allowed to yell.
No doubt. I know, but I don't want to yell, period. But we'll like heads up. Hey, man on second, start thinking about what you want to do. And then to see them still kind of mess up those plays here and there, or to see them take at bats out to the field, and all of a sudden their defense is down a little bit. And so I have to keep reminding myself, these are still little kids, man. Even if it's a good team, and they're a pretty highly competitive team, and they practice and they do well, and they're pretty good at listening and applying and all those things that you ask them to do. But the game situations is where I need to make sure I have a little bit more patience. So they did do well today. They won both of their games, but one of them was pretty ugly, the first one. And then seeing how hard they still take some of the stuff, and I forget about that part too. You know what I mean? Because when you're in Little League, if you're a decent player, you're hitting 600. So you're used to being on base like all the time. And all of a sudden you have like a 1-for-4 day, and it seems like the worst day in the world for them. And so trying to work through some of that patience today with my little guy, whose first game didn't go as good as the second game did, but he was really hard on himself. And I was like,
hits did he have in the second game? You go off the second game?
He had a couple of hits in the second game, a couple of hard hit balls. I want to say maybe he went 2-for-4. He played well, and he made some nice defensive plays. He's always pretty steady on defense. He didn't get to pitch today. We got one more tomorrow. But just even for all the kids, not even my son, but just all of them. And then it's like, okay, and then try to get them to think about being team players, right? Can you imagine, of course, you and I, even in college or high school, or certainly professionally, you're in the dugout, and some kid's talking about the last hit he got. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really happy I got a hit in the third inning. Like, it's in the sixth inning. Like, professionally, we would kill a teammate, right, for doing that.
Yeah, I'd be like, what? Shut up. Yeah, I really like, get out of here with that. I don't want to hear about your hitting the third.
So I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, do I need to tell a kid when he's 12, like, he's super happy, right? And I want him to be happy, but I also want him to be a good teammate and focus on what's currently happening on the field, which is now his teammates are out there competing and having at bats or doing whatever and trying to do well. So I struggle with that one a little bit about how to, I don't want to crush a kid's, happy time, but I also want to teach them to be a good teammate. And that's what I'm starting to realize, as much as we say, hey, the greatest are great at coaching, because they have a hard time relating. Even for us, that the experience and the knowledge that we have, I realize there's times for me that I might not be such a great coach, because I lose my patience pretty quickly for things that I think should be automatic.
There's no question. I lose my patience all the time. I lose my patience all the time on my kids more than I do on anybody else. I'm like way more thick-skinned and have a much longer leash, and I'm way cooler to other people than I am to my own family. Um,
Yeah,
and
for
I
sure.
know that. I know that's something I need to work on too.
Hmm.
But I'm with you. Like, I think nuance of the game is something I've always kind of paid attention to, but I also try to go big picture. I'm like, look, if they really love this game and they have fun, they're gonna eventually pick up on it. And if I ruin, and that's like you and I've said this many times, like don't be the coach that ruins the game for somebody.
Yeah.
Don't be the guy that takes the love away from the kid, because it's easier to take it away than it is to give it to them.
Yeah.
To me, I think like falling in love with the sport is really organic, and it goes on their own pace. My son, like I wanted to touch with him every day from the second he was born, and same with my daughter. And they never wanted to play catch with me. He wanted to build Legos or magnet tiles or read a book, and I was like, okay, I'm going to patiently wait. And now he's gotten to like at 7 years old, one of his buddies invited him to a team. He did, like we signed him up for t-ball. He never wanted to. He didn't even want to do it. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to back off and let him do it on his own dime and let him fall in love with the game on his own. And I'm going to do my best not to ruin it for him. And it's been like, now he's in love with it. He was like, Dad, let's go play catch. I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Awesome, man. I will say this too, and I try this, and I'm not always great at it, but it's one of those things that I preach and try to practice. So, as an example, we're having a conversation because it's nice that we're good coaches and they know the game well. They played in college, and so we're just talking about receiving throws at second base. And I said, I feel like my son was playing short at the time. He's a little tentative around the bag. And I said, you know what? And so I was like, I just kind of want to make that point, but I said, I'd rather you make it. Right. So if you're a dad that's coaching, even if you're coaching with another dad and you feel like you have something you want to tell your child, and I'm not saying I do it every time. I wish I did it every time. But if you have something that maybe another coach didn't pick up on, ask the other coach to say it, or ask the
For
other.
sure.
Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your experience level. Whether you played in the big leagues, you're a Hall of Famer, or your career stopped when you were 15, whatever it is, you're still dad. Doesn't matter how much baseball knowledge you have or how good of a coach you are. They will always look at you as dad. And so that criticism comes a little bit harder, or even when you don't even feel like it is criticism. Right, when you're just like, oh, hey, look, you look like you're not in the right spot for this, or whatever it may be, and they look at it as like, oh, my dad doesn't like what I'm doing, which was it's like, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just letting you know this, but it's because you're the father. It always comes across a little bit differently. So if you can ask the other parent, other coach, whoever it is, even if it's your message, to let them deliver it, it's probably going to be better received. Which also reminds me, I took an idea of yours. Remember you were talking about hitting beans?
Oh yeah, those are great. I do that all the time.
We started doing that and working it kind of in the backyard a little bit, and it's been kind of fun. And so, and even I'll bring the kids, his team will come over to hit once in a while, and same kind of deal. And so we were trying to hit beans, and I also had like the rubber golf balls, like the foam ones.
What kind of beans are you hitting? I loved lima beans are my favorite.
A little bigger
because they're a little bit bigger.
Uh-huh.
And when you get a hold of one, they explode, and it's like it's gratifying. Like if you make solid contact with the lima bean, those things are gone. Like they're like you'll never see it again.
That's good to know, man, because we just happen to have some Goya black beans in the pantry, so that's what we.
Yeah, those are a little bit smaller. Go for the lima beans are a little bit bigger, and it's gratifying to get the response of it watching it explode.
That's a good one. So we've been doing it with like probably maybe a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch PVC pipe, like a little plastic.
Perfect.
Pipe, right? So even harder. So I was like, I told Luke, I'm like, hey, let me try to hit a couple of these. Because I watch the kids and I know how hard it is. I'm like, don't worry if you miss 5 in a row. We're just trying to get you to get zoned in on something smaller and, working on the hand eye, whatever it may be. Because some really good hitters struggle with it. Some of our better hitters do, right? And It's like, don't get frustrated, keep working at it. So I'm like, let me try it. So my guy starts flipping me some of these. This is with the rubber golf balls that I'm using the PVC pipe. And I missed like the first 6 or something, right? And
For sure. Yeah.
He goes, wow. He goes, wow, Dad. He's like, I don't think I've ever seen you fail at something like this before. It was, or he goes, something athletically, like he was in awe of the fact that I could not hit these balls. It hurt my heart a little bit. It hurt my heart a little bit to see my son like, oh, wow, I guess you're not great at everything the way that I once thought you were, right? The way that we dads and think that they're so great at everything. And now he saw me fail at trying to hit rubber foam golf balls. And he's like, yeah, you're not that impressive anymore.
Yeah, so I started that drill with my dad, and I think I've shared with you the reason why I even picked it up was I'm going to have to look up the kid's name, but it was a University of Miami. I believe he led the nation in hitting, and if I remember the story correctly, I think Pat Burrell was on this Miami team because it was a collegiate World Series. That's how I remember. And so I'm in high school, and this kid's leading the nation in hitting, and I believe he was raised by his grandmother. And so the grandmother obviously couldn't throw batting practice, and but she could flip. And so I believe they might have been Cuban, right? Like it might have been a Cuban family living in the Miami area, and it was just something that that his grandma would do is flip him these beans, and he had a stick and would hit it. And so like I heard that, and I was like, "Oh, Dad, can we try this?" And he was like, "Sure." So my dad built me same type of thing. It was like a 3/4 inch pipe, but it was aluminum, and it was really really thin. And then I wrapped it like with electrical tape. That was there was no lizard skin for this thing.
We got on there
Uh,
electric.
yeah, so I used electrical tape, and this bat was we measured it out. We wanted it 34 inches, and we started at first with bottle caps.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a bunch of bottle caps, and bottle caps. It was funny. So my dad would put on this. So my dad's really handy. He was a handyman in Santa Barbara for a bunch of years. And so he would put down almost like a welder's mask, but it's almost like what people are like a butcher's mask, right?
Yeah.
Like a clear shield. And he would flip me these bottle caps, and the bottle cap would like move and be a slider and all these different things. And actually,
straight at you, not side, not you're not doing front or side toss. You're not doing.
He was
standing in front.
No, he was in front of me. Yeah, so we would go in front. So he would sit in front of me with this mask, and he'd flip them at me. And like we learned over time, like if you flip them end over end, so it kind of goes like this, they're slow and they're a little bit easier to hit. Yeah. And then eventually, like he would throw them sideways, and it would be like a slider. And like he could get it to go straight. He can flip them this way, so it come. So I had all these variations, and those things were super fun to hit. And like that, and I did that for what, like 6 years of my life, from basically 15 through every single year that I was in college.
Wow.
And then we eventually like moved into lima beans because the bottle caps, I was hitting them in our backyard, and they would hit off the windows, and it was just we're making a bigger mess than anything. And we brought it to one of our college practices one day, and same type of thing. These are college hitters, and we had in 2001, UCSB we led the league, we led the nation in hitting. We had a great hitting team, and some of our best hitters couldn't even make contact with one of these things.
Yeah, I believe it. How far away would he stand when he did it?
Probably be about 15 feet.
Underhand, overhand, how would he throw him?
Like that.
Oh, just kind of like flick them?
Like it was like a frisbee.
Yeah, because it's not easy to control.
No.
Like you can't do like the old thing, like when you're hanging out with your buddies and you're taking a cap and you're like snapping it across the room.
Yeah, you're not snapping it. It's more of a flick. And bottle caps are really cool. Bottle caps were great. I think my record hitting in a row was like 23. That number was because I remember because it was Ryan Sandberg was like my favorite player. So I hit 23 of those things in a row, and that's my record. So if anybody can beat that, I'll be really impressed.
23 in a row. I'm gonna try. I don't have enough. I'm trying to think like these days, like collecting.
You gotta it just means you gotta drink more.
Yeah, I mean that's like hey, my dad gained 20 pounds because he's pounding beer, but now I'm a better hitter.
Or you could just take the easy way out and just maybe have a big party at your house when everything's settled in, but everything is twist off, and make sure you keep them all.
I bet you I could order somewhere. But that's fine. We'll go lima beans next, because we actually hit some black beans today before the game, and there was some frustration early on from him. And he was like, I can't hit.
Those are hard to hit.
Yeah. But
they're hard to hit. But it's good when you like, I'm telling you, we did that. We did our bean and bottle cap drill. I did that every day for 6 years of my life. And I wish I would have just kept doing it in the big leagues. It probably would have helped. It would have been funny, right, to bring in my my aluminum bat and a bag of bottle caps or lima beans into the batting cage.
Whatever it takes. It's so funny. I remember the things that stick in your mind. I remember as a kid watching the Little League World Series and they were showing a guy from Japan with his son and how they would train. And they were in a super tiny, like little square cage. Like it couldn't have been, but 3x3, 4x4. It wasn't big, like just barely enough room to fit in there. And the guy was flipping him. I think it might have been, I don't think it was rice, but something really small. It might have been rice, but whatever they could kind of get their hands on just to work on, same kind of thing, that hand-eye coordination and thinking small. And I remember being so amazed by that. The dad would just sit there and flip. I couldn't even see his hand. It was so small, whatever he was with the kid. But knowing that he was in Japan, he probably had to do like 3,000 a day before he could eat.
So it's fun. It's so fun. It's so funny, the things that we remember when we start talking about this stuff. So if anybody is listening or watching this thing, I'm guessing we have like, how many people are watching today? 30, 40? If you're watching,
I always keep it on, which is kind of nice. And then I even put it on the podcast side too. So that's the value of it for me. So what was great when I was doing this bottle cap drill and the lima bean drill was I had an issue, and I've told you, like, I used to like chicken wing really bad, right? Like, because I used to do the fence drill. I used to swing close to the fence, so I see how hard could I swing the bat as close to the fence as possible. It's a great inside out swing, which is what I had. I hit the ball to right field because of the drills I did as a kid. But so I would chicken wing, and whenever your elbow leads, if you're a hitter, your elbow leads, your head usually goes with it. And so hitting these bottle caps, it's really hard to hit the bottle caps with this elbow popping up. Like, you have to be pretty direct, like you always hear, like, the butt of the bat to the ball. It's actually, it's pretty standard way of hitting. Even though somebody's going to say, well, what about this launch angle stuff? I was like, trust me. You square up a baseball, or you find it, like, you're not going to launch angle a ball up here. You're not going to launch angle a ball like way down low. It's all about the pitch you're going to get anyways. Yeah.
But if you go like hands to the ball, that's how I was hitting the bottle cap, but it forced my head to stay like back. And like, if you watch Nolan Arenado hit, so Nolan's amazing. I would say that nobody puts his head in the position at contact like Nolan does. Nolan's head is like looking straight down. And so, like, if you're wondering why that's so important, like if you're a hitter or hitting coach, it's because your backhand or your top hand, which is really, really, really important. If you keep your hand here, it can drive all the way through. When you pull your head out, it gets cut off.
Okay.
And so Nolan's
more balls doing that.
Huh?
Will you roll over more balls doing that if your hand gets cut off like that?
If you're going out here, oh yeah, this is a ground out to short every single time. But if you really try to force kids, or at least encourage, I wouldn't say force, encourage them to keep themselves in this body position where their head
like
is
chin to your front arm, kind of.
No, I'm talking about like look, if I'm hitting,
Handed hitter.
and I'm hitting like this, right? I'm looking and look at my top hand.
Yeah.
When the ball comes, I come right here and I keep in this position, right? I can drive this arm all the way through center of balance straight down the middle. Gotcha. Versus if I'm like here and I hit and I go like this, like I pull my head, like I can't even drive my arm all the way through, but I can when I go here.
That makes sense, because it's funny, because that's kind of similar to some of what we were working on with Luke a little bit, but something, and I want to get your advice on this before we wrap up, because I'm losing light, but the idea of, like, when he's here, so I'm as a lefty, where I feel like, we're hitting a BP where everything's the same speed, it's fine, but he starts, especially if he's seeing slower pitchers, as he gets ready to go, his head will go forward a little bit, not too bad, but the hand starts coming back here. So now there's a lot of separation from his hand to his head, and then it'll end up coming around pitches, and he'll end up being late on average at best fastballs and sometimes slow ones. And I'm always worried about the keywords and trying to keep it as simple as possible for kids. But just the idea, I'm like, hey, keep that hand somewhat close to your head. Don't let it get away from your head.
Bad swings are long swings when they get out here.
Yeah.
Like Justin Turner likes it. Like, think about an archer. They like it. Like anything here. Like a good example, one way to just prove your point to a kid when they're getting their hands away, because all they're trying to do is they think somebody's throwing hard,
Yeah.
or they don't trust their strength, so they're trying to create more power.
Mhm.
A simple drill: have him put the bat on his shoulder, okay, and and flip a couple where just leave him here, and
Mhm.
then flip him, and like as soon as he goes, he'll naturally go and hit, and you're like, look, you're not gonna when you're hitting, it's not like you don't have to reach way back here to hit. Like, there's plenty of power in a short amount of space, because the most important thing is just getting barrel to the contact spot, and your body actually serves itself a lot better when it when you're able to stay nice and quick and short, and you're actually way more powerful. So
It's almost like
it's just like watching a boxer. When was the last time you saw a boxer like reach all the way back to punch somebody?
that guy's going to go back in the face. But and it seems sometimes the slower the pitching gets, the more likely that he starts to get further away a little bit. It's funny. He used to start and I know that's not exactly what you're saying, but he used to start with his bat rested kind of on his shoulder a little bit, where now he's starting hands here. But I just noticed if he struggles a little bit, or if he seems late, a lot of times it's his hand getting here. And I think I told you I like using. I have another PVC pipe with a noodle on it, the foam noodle, and it's kind of sitting up on a tee, and we sit it behind home plate. And he knows if he hits that noodle, he's going out and around to the ball. And he hates that drill because he hates getting exposed that way too, or he's worried about hitting it. But it does kind of help change his path. But it's interesting because it happens really only in games. So we're taking batting practice for soft toss, and we're doing everything at that controlled speed. I don't see him get out there. Come game time, I feel like he starts going to the pitcher a little bit, and then all of a sudden the hand starts getting way back.
Yeah, I mean, again, just have him rest the bat on his shoulder, and then
and go straight from there. Hey, bat on the shoulder. When I go to soft toss to you, do not take your hand off. I want you to just hit the ball.
No, yeah, just keep it here, and no one's gonna hit straight. He's not gonna hit like that. Like, like even if your bat's on your shoulder, no one hits like that. It's just like as soon as the ball comes, it'll go on its own, because that's your reaction. Like, you're not gonna. It's just the way to prevent it from starting here and naturally weak. So here there's also a pretty cool timing mechanism that starts up. So
maybe we'll do some of that this week. How are you on soccer advice? You good at giving the kids soccer advice, or you faking your?
I don't know. No, I don't know anything about soccer other than I try to nutmeg my daughter, and that's it. Like, if I nutmeg her, I'm call myself Mr. Nutmeg. Hey, how about this baseball talk for 2 minutes, because I got to get going. Apparently they're gonna deliver a financial thing on Tuesday.
I think so. Yeah, we're gonna see it this week. Finally, man, we'll have plenty to talk about during the week when you're doing inside pitch and I'm doing the leadoff spot, and then hopefully the weekend. Hopefully, I'm not gonna have a resolution, but at least we'll have a really good idea, I think, of where they're headed. It does sound like some. You'll hear a little bit more as far as where the players are on some of the safety protocols, which we talked about during the show anyway. I think they want to see a little bit more freedom to do what they want to do, as opposed to saying you have to do this, this, and this. And that seems to make a lot of sense. And then hopefully we'll start to get an idea of where we really are from an economic standpoint. I mean, Andy Martino had said that they might not even be in there revenue sharing, right? As much as we've talked about it with all the leagues, perhaps that's not going to be as big of a deal as we think. I hope not. I mean, either way, well, they got to get it done. They got to get it figured out. But hopefully the first thing that we hear then doesn't get either the leaked reactions or public reactions, right?
You're right.
Now, that's the big one, because all it does
is just a deal.
Encouraged.
Yeah, we just want to hear that there's a deal done. That's all I care about. And I'm CJ. I'm freaking out about minor league. I'm freaking out about minor league baseball. I'm worried. I'm worried for those guys.
I know it. Yeah. Those guys sitting home right now, it's tough to get a job as it is, and you're in that weird spot anyway of getting one. You can't really. It's a real challenge, especially some of the temporary stuff, or stuff that you can do around your schedule a little bit more. Like if you wanted to go be an Uber driver or whatever it is. I mean, the demand just isn't there right now. So even picking up those kind of jobs is a challenge for those guys, and it's going to be. I think it's going to be a smaller system going forward, man. After what we saw with the Angels. And we'll, as far as cutting
Orioles released 37 minor leaguers today.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, that stinks. So. Yeah, it's tough, man. I got to tell you, because I told you that there's a part.
But that's you got to remember, there's only 2 days of minor league camp this year, so traditionally there's probably about 30 cuts at the end of spring training and a minor league camp anyway. So it's not like that's an unorthodox and like you basically look at a draft. If there's 40 rounds in a draft, there's usually 40 guys more to give or take.
Yeah.
They get released a year later. I mean, it's just it's the system. So it's not like it's out of the ordinary. But it's still like the writing's on the wall, man.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. And just be matter of what becomes most efficient. But in between now and then, like if we did get down to where each organization only is using 4 affiliates and the draft gets cut to 20 rounds, like I hate all of it, but I hate between the now and then and kind of sifting through it. And a lot of guys, and all of a sudden a year or two losing jobs or going away. And then what happens to those cities that are losing teams too? And are they interested in a dream league? And is it the same? I mean, listen, some of those independent teams do really well and draw really good fans. What they do it out in Long Island with the Ducks and the St. Paul Saints, like those are successful. And so that gives me at least a little bit of hope for some of these minor league places that might lose teams. Like, could they find a way to do something that will still bring entertaining baseball to their city?
I just need to get Michael Jordan back in the minor leagues or in the independent ball. All right, buddy. I enjoyed it. Sorry I was 15 minutes late. It was barbecue time. Enjoy Memorial Day this week.
Anything for meat. It's always worth being late for meat. All right, man. Have a great
yeah. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. Thanks to the servicemen and women out there. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. See you, brother.
See ya.
What's up, Megan?
Nothing. How'd you do?